If you are moving to Norway from another European Union country, you need to be ready over hard reality. Fewer and fewer foreigners want to work in Norway. From 2023 to 2024 alone, labor migration in Norway has decreased by about 30%. Foreigners have become a working class. Today, about 217,000 labor migrants from Eastern and Central Europe live in Norway. But weakening of Norwegian krona over last 10 years and other factors play an important role now. More and more immigrants are leaving for home. In a new study, researchers from Oslo Met University analyzed data on about 300,000 labor migrants who came to Norway. They concluded that likelihood of departure is highest among people with high levels of education. The reasons for leaving Norway are not limited just to the economy. For the last 20 years, people believed that work equals integration, but that's not the case. Labor migrants from European Union countries have had minimal access to the integrational measures available to refugees or other categories of migrants. They did not go through adaptation program and were not entitled to free Norwegian language training. If you come to Norway, you're expected to manage on your own, but that's only one side. According to FAFO, around 30,000 European Union citizens live and work long-term in Norway without access to regular medical care and bank ID. Most labor migrants receive a temporary identification number, a D number, because they do not meet the requirements for Norwegian personal identification number. The D number is intended for short-term stays and means that the person are not considered permanent resident in the country. However, many people live and work in Norway for years while still registered with a D number. A new report from the Researchers Institute shows that up to 30,000 such people may exist. Without a permanent personal identification number, migrants do not get access to a family doctor, cannot apply for housing support, cannot open full bank accounts, cannot use bank ID to access government services. Without bank ID, it's also difficult to get a place to live, as big platforms for housing like Finn.no and many banks require electronic identification. This creates a vicious cycle where people end up in extremely poor working conditions and cannot escape.
This forms a group of people outside the system who are very easy to exploit.
Work migrants are often employed in dangerous fields of work, but in the event of an injury, they cannot even access the help they're entitled to as taxpayers.
This situation and this system are absurd. A person comes to Norway, works for low wages in dangerous professions, does not get full electronic identification, cannot open a proper account, and when an accident happens, they lose the rights they themselves funded with their taxes.
Norway Tax Administration, Skatteetaten, decides who get a permanent identification number. They require proof of permanent employment contract and housing. For people living in barracks, temporary dormitories, or working on short-term contracts, it is often impossible. FAFO also notes that it is harder to get a permanent identification number for those with strong family ties abroad. The researchers proposing various solutions to this problem, including switching D number for a single ID system for everyone and sending reports to the Norwegian Ministry of Labour and Inclusion that should work as a basis for the changes. When asked what government will do, Line Eldring, secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Inclusion, answers, "We cannot promise solution on behalf of other ministries, but we guarantee that the report will not be shelved." Let's see. What do you think? Is there a good solution? Let's discuss in comments. She also emphasized that the priority is to ensure labor migrants get their legal rights and reduce the vulnerability created by current system. But at the same time, it's important to have identification system that provides security and protection and cannot be used to harm anyone. Let's look at what immigrants are actually has to say about why they are leaving Norway.
I'm a high-earning immigrant who grew up, studied, and got naturalized as a child via my parents. I now work for a Chinese company, traveling frequently for projects. But over time, there are things I just can't tolerate anymore. First, the lack of job security. If you lose your position in this field, it can take months, even years, to find another permanent one. But that's not even the main reason I'm leaving. It's the cold winters and devastating during summers, the short, dark days, and the terrible infrastructure where cyclists, drivers, and pedestrians are constantly at war over who the roads are actually for. Spoiler, it's the pedestrians. I'm leaving not because I can't afford to stay, but because I don't need to. I was lucky enough to buy property in the early 2000s and sell during the inflation boom, so I'm comfortable. I can work independently anywhere as a sole trader, and frankly, the quality of life here has dropped too much for me to keep pretending otherwise.
You don't get much out of your taxes as a foreigner. I pay roughly 30–40% of my income in taxes, and I don't use any of the government services. Some of them aren't even available to me because I'm foreign. And the one thing I do use regularly, roads, are very poorly maintained, so who knows where my money is actually being spent. Some people will come into the country and manage to fit in, but I think a lot of people, especially those in highly desirable skilled jobs who could go elsewhere, will realize that their quality of life could be a lot better in a different country.
Even if I found a job, I'd be eating a massive pay cut to continue living in Norway. With how much the cost of living has increased and the value of the kroner has decreased, this isn't viable for living in a city and supporting a family on my single income, a situation a lot of my fellow highly paid immigrants would be in. Taxes have little to do with this, in my mind. Norwegian policies and society itself seems to be structurally built to make immigrants feel unwelcome. This isn't unique to Norway, but is a major problem nonetheless. If an immigrant sees that they are having more and more of their income eaten up by basics compared to what they had on first arrival, is constantly reminded of how unwelcome they are and has the ability to leave. Why would they choose to stay? Beautiful fjords and nature can only do so much.
Working a full-time, very demanding job in English and lack of a social life makes learning Norwegian very difficult. This is not a Norway problem, of course, but on a personal level, it affects my ability to integrate. I feel some hostility when I say I've been here for some years and don't speak Norwegian, and I'm a bit tired of explaining and excusing myself. I'd rather move to an English-speaking country or my own home country at some point. No social life, extremely isolating place, also due to point one. Lack of human interaction in general. The weather is dreadful and makes you want to stay inside most of the year. I miss going outside in nice weather. On the other hand, there are positives of working here. Otherwise, I would have left a long time ago. But the main challenge for foreign professionals in high-paying jobs is that said jobs are very demanding and competitive, and they take the vast majority of your mental energy and time. This makes practicing and learning the language a low priority, honestly speaking, which reflects in poor integration, and at some point it leads to leaving the country. Finally, people in these positions tend to be ambitious and will take other roles in countries where the job market is more dynamic, where the language is not a drag, and where the pay is higher.
There is genuinely nothing outstandingly or uniquely good about Norway. I know a lot of Norwegians are very proud of their country, but after living there, I can't say I see any benefit to living in Norway, as opposed to Denmark, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, etc. In fact, I honestly see more negatives than positives. Tasty milk and pretty mountains just doesn't cut it. Sorry, guys.
Right now, all of the Europe is facing demographic challenges and competing for the same workforce. This makes integration even more important if Norway wants people not only to come but also to stay. In my opinion, Norway is done for now. And in this video right here, I go in detail on why Norway is not a good option for immigrating anymore.